There are stories that connect us to ourselves and to each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. Now, exclusively on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, your hosts, AJ and Natalie.
Hello, hello, and hello. Do I say that every week? Hello, hello, hello. Because one hello is just not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough. It is Soul Wanderings night. I am AJ.
And I'm Natalie.
And we are your hosts of Wandering Wednesdays, Soul Wanderings, here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. You can hang out with us on any of KGRA's platforms like Facebook, Rumble, X, Twitch. You can also go over to live.kgradb.com, where we will be there hanging out with you. We love our wanderers when they come in. And hopefully you guys are finding us in our new time. We really give you zero notice that our time changed. And
that's true. Life does that. Life doesn't always give us notice.
It doesn't. And so we are now live at 7 p.m. Eastern. We invite you to visit soulwanderings.com. Like, follow, subscribe. You can find all of our socials on there. Also, you guys, we are doing topics for the remainder of the year. If you have a topic that you are interested in us having a conversation about, you can email us at connect@soulwanderings.com. And we're also now on YouTube at Soul Wanderings. So we'll have a couple of shows up at a time. Then they go behind in the special members only area on KGRA DB. And if you want access to those videos as well as all of the other shows, you can use our promo code WANDERER to receive 30% off of your membership. It can be monthly or annually. Either way, you're saving money. We like saving the monies. Hi, Natalie.
Hello.
This week we're talking about
etymology.
Yeah, etymology.
Etymology. That, don't confuse that with the other one that has to do with the study of insects. Entomology. Entomology is insect study, but etymology is essentially a body of knowledge or body of science that goes back and tracks the history of words. So.
And I think that's so wild because I really don't care. I like the frequency and the vibration. When we start talking about that, I'm all about it. But it's just crazy how much time has changed and evolved vocabulary.
Yes.
And not just over the English language, just what it means for us and what it means in other languages and whatnot.
Yes. So I found while I was preparing for the show.
This was Natalie's topic.
True. And then I was like, whoa, okay. So I just want to put out there, I'm a relative novice as far as exact science and massive knowledge within etymology. So I was geeking out a little bit and I realized, well, I don't have that, like not locked in my brain, but I work with concepts anyway. So when I'm talking conceptually. So I'm going to come from that framework saying, look, there's this body of knowledge and lovely thing with the internet that everything is instant access for us. So we are very, very fortunate in this time with our technology and our ability to just tap any question, anytime we can just look at it. So that I'm not going to sit here and talk so much about like very specifics with etymology, but to realize that we have words and threads that attach to the words, which I believe can affect the frequency and the vibration of particular words, along with gaining an awareness that words do mutate, do get changed, whether or not there's this actual conscious drive to co-opt words, which probably does happen, and change it, or just this natural drift. So one thing I was thinking about, you've noticed that teenagers or kids will come in and they'll take a word and then they'll just change it to be nothing like it was for their parents. And there's a source of pride that goes with that. This is now this word sick that used to mean like an illness now is like so awesome, cool. So
I have a niece and actually a stepdaughter, like pre-tween and teenager, and their language, I am like, I have no idea what you just said. Because it's not just a few words. They have sentences. They have like whole paragraphs of all these new words. And I'm like, I don't have a clue what you just said.
Right. And where does that actually come? Where's the drive for that? But it seems to happen organically, and exactly what drives their language and who chooses, is there even a who that would choose to have this shifted, or where do these things come from? I don't know. It's a fascinating thing in society to understand that these are natural occurrences and just happen naturally. Did I say that? See, you say hello a lot. I said naturally like 3 times right there.
That's okay. Words, right? I just get really excited when we come on to Soul Wanderings Night and I'm like, hello. I'm so happy to be here. I think that's what that is. And also we can get repetitious in our wording. Definitely.
Oh.
I know I say a lot. It's not even a word. Or because I say because a lot, because I feel like I have to explain, even though I don't have to explain anything, right? It's just like the sentence can be done and done. But because, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's interesting because when I was listening to, like I do often, different lectures so that I can continue to absorb the body knowledge known as the human design system and all the aspects of that. He was actually talking about that be cause, but he broke it out and it's like be the cause. And actually so this is an interesting thing to know specifically to you and your design, because you do have this particular channel that's called the channel of struggle. And it doesn't always have to be a struggle, but it could for people until they become more their definition. Mm-hmm. So a person with that particular channel is a warrior and has this energy and power to fight for a cause. So here you are, you can literally be the warrior for the cause that you struggle for. And knowing you, that's definitely an aspect that you bring to the table. So as we take words and we realize that there's history to words and roots, remember way back when I was a young teenager, I actually really liked grammar and had a pretty good knowledge of that. And I still understand from that framework that I gained back then, verbs and adjectives and all the aspects of grammar, and understanding that Latin and Greek, we get a lot from our language. We get a lot from a lot of languages, actually, Old English, but there's so many languages that link back to Latin and Greek, and studying the suffixes and the prefixes of words to understand when you break them apart, then it can give us language or the breaking apart of that. That it's not the way everybody communicates, but it happens to be what I like. So I get a little geeky, I guess, about these things.
I love it when you get geeky. Talk nerdy to me, Natalie.
Okay, so
the nerd talk. It's for me all the way. I thought it was interesting because, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, you go ahead.
So you brought up the topic and I was like, that's an interesting topic. And where I come from the energetic or spiritual side, I thought, well, there's a lot of power in words. There's a lot of energy and frequency and vibration. Like, I definitely can come from it from that point of view. But let me learn more about etymology and see what it really truly means and how it feels. And I thought it was fun to see like the different languages. And I should have jotted some of these down, but how one small word ended up being a bigger word, but meant the same thing, but was spelt differently depending on what part of the world you were in. And there were just like all of these different ways and versions of one word and one meaning. And then when I went into more of like the spiritual aspect of it, just like looking at the word enlightenment meant like the meaning of it is in light mind, in light mental activity, right? So enlightenment is your mind being
less of a drag.
Yeah. And I just thought, wow, the words, they all have meanings. They have definition to what they are, just like spiritual. Spiritual means breath or soul.
Right.
Signifying life, like breath of life. I didn't even know that. And I feel like I live in this world deeply. But when you start looking into not so much the definition, but the vibration of it. And like when you break it down, it's so cool to see what happens with the word and how the frequency changes.
Right. So when you talk about the frequency changing when you actually become aware of the components of that particular word, then there's this aspect of being aware. And that was another word that I looked into because there were just a few that I wanted to be specific with. And that consciousness of awareness and knowing, and not that those two are the same words, but there's this aspect of as you become more aware, then you become more of within this consciousness, which is to be conscious comes from Latin, which is the calm, with or thoroughly, and the scire, which is to know. So this is with that, it's to gain awareness. So as you become conscious with knowing, then you have this awareness. And then when you have this awareness, it's like there's a watcher in the mind and your body. There's two. Mm-hmm. And then this is what the human design talks about, that as you wake up, the passenger crystal, the crystal of consciousness, which is the passenger, isn't always awake. So, but to be awake is to be aware and have consciousness. And then you become the watcher, which lightens the mind and frees the mind from running the show, which is what we want to do. And that's when enlightenment says, wow, they struggle less. Mm-hmm. And this is this ability to, even with language, if you say, okay, well, let's start somewhere to gain an awareness and learn more about a language. And to learn is then to step into a place where then you can start walking it. And with walking it and doing comes the actual knowing. Because knowing doesn't just happen.
Right.
Well, knowing does kind of just happen. It happens as you're doing, and then suddenly there's this knowing. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, definitely. It's like an example, I would say, so how we all need to be careful on how we use our words, because one of the biggest quantum leaps in the spiritual journey occurs when we become aware of our own language, like our own consciousness, right?
Right.
When you become more conscious of your language and your internal dialogues, it changes everything. Just like when you go from a victim consciousness to more of a creator consciousness or co-creator consciousness. And you realize that what you are speaking into your existence.
Yeah. It's a big shift.
Mm-hmm.
With that comes the responsibility, but responsibility really doesn't have to be a burden. It can be this place that said, well, I want to bring myself to the world. And in many ways, that's what living within the framework of human design offers, this ability to be a very unique aspect. Unique, not necessarily meaning special, but really meaning that you're really truly embodying the potential that your individual body, born at that particular time, with the particular design and framework that's within each of us at birth, it's only potential. So we have to swim through this world that wants us to be not that potential. Mm-hmm. So the world conditions us to be not what we have the potential to be, and then we become homogenized, as they say, or like everyone else. And it really makes for a boring world in many ways because there is no particular voice. Now, this is maybe stepping a little bit, but continuing the conversation to say, as we watch, and there's a lot of talking heads, there are a lot of people that are talking. And so often, if you were to watch one, and this happens where I've seen people actually put together like the way that different news media outlets are saying the same thing, the same thing, the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. We're very programmable. And so often things will be said the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. That's not just to them. It's what's taught in schools. It's even in the spiritual world where a lot of people are reciting spiritual concepts or teachings. And if you really feel their frequency, they're not embodied of that frequency, but they're working at it or doing their best from wherever they are in that framework. Personally, my goal is to utilize and teach the human design in each individual person because it becomes much more interesting when you're around people that are being like themselves. So what does this have to do with etymology? Well, etymology is the study and the history of words to understand that words have these threads that go backwards in time. And then understanding and breaking apart the words. You become more aware, like you were saying, you start to use language differently. You start to be able to sort through it differently because it's just not rote. Just like, oh, okay, do I like the feel of this word? First, let my mind comprehend it, analyze it a little bit, pull it apart, and then see if that's something I would want to keep. Perhaps there's words that we wouldn't really want to embody. And this is when I talk about, I didn't look up the etymology of sorry. However, that's one of those words that I wouldn't want to carry in my frequency. And so many people say, I am sorry. And it's
on repeat.
Oh my goodness, how often people say it unconsciously.
It's just like, I had a dear friend who had a headache yesterday. And the first thing I wanted to say is, I'm so sorry, because I knew the suffering was there and the pain was there and I could empathize and I had compassion for my friend. But I stopped myself and I'm like, I want to say sorry because I feel, but what's another word that I could do that is differently? Just becoming more aware. I do like the word sorry for certain situations, but also just there are people in our awareness where we just walk by them and they're like, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes. Just like, why are you sorry for existing? You're just standing there. There's nothing to be sorry for.
I agree with that. It doesn't feel very good to me when people, like, there isn't this vibration that's a positive vibration with that. And the longer I've walked on my own personal journey of consciousness study and the human design, living by a framework that's personalized to me, I can feel that differently than I used to be able to.
Mm-hmm.
There is such an ability to feel.
Yes. And that's the thing, the frequency, the vibration, that's my jam. I love feeling that kind of stuff. I'm trying to recall the name of the frequency and correct. It might be somatic frequencies, the ones that come from the body. They emanate out of you. And we think that, so the words that we use, we think that they're just words, but they're actually programming codes that the universe picks up. And then the universe activates those codes because that's the way the universe works. That's how things happen. And it's just a way of creating like different realities, just speaking like in different ways or using certain words that you can actually control the outcome or a different outcome. I mean, it's the power of your voice, it's the power of speaking, and it's the power of the words that you use.
That it's so true. There's a lot of different modalities or bodies of knowledge, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. When a lot of times people use NLP, but if you really think about that, neuro-linguistic programming, that's exactly what we're talking about, this ability to program our neurology linguistically by words. Mm-hmm. It really does. It really works that way. And being cautious. So once you start to understand this, you study it a bit, practice it, tune in the listening, the way that you listen, the framework, what you will say or not. Now, it takes a bit to raise the awareness of the words that you're using, and then start to shift away from things that don't feel right. So this is very involved, let's say. There's a lot of involvement in lots of different aspects of this. One of the words that I did look up, that the etymology, and not to go all historically in it because I don't have that information, but to understand the word discern, which in Latin it comes from dis, which is off and far away, as in distance, and then cerne, which is distinguish, separate, or shift. Because I feel the skill, which is a skill, so a skill is something that we can build and takes practice. And the more you practice, the better you get at a particular skill. Discernment or discerning is an important skill to do these days because there really is so much propaganda. And that is in many ways just because it's so easy to spread things electronically these days and digitally these days. So this ability to discern and shift and so this off and away from the dis part is to push it away if it's something that isn't for you, and to discern through various aspects. To be discerning means that you are also willing to say that is not for me, which is an important aspect to do. That is not for me. Right.
And also having the courage to do that.
Yeah.
A lot of us will feel it. We'll feel it in our bodies. We'll feel it in our gut, in our heart, in our mind, and still choose the opposite of what our body is telling us.
Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. Why do we do the things that we do?
Well, most of it's been said. From my understanding, it's conditioning.
Oh, so definitely. Often, people are afraid to be something that's not the norm, to dance to their own beat.
Right.
But each word has a frequency and it has a vibration, like I said. So some words are going to feed off of your energy and other words are going to feed your energy. It's polarity. It's the science of spirituality and polarity. It just is. It's part of the physical world. It's also part of the cosmic world.
It is so true. That I like the way that you put that. It reminds me when I've worked with people and I talk to people about relationships. Is that relationship additive, or is it a subtractive relationship? And the willingness to just consider that. For those of us within human design, those of us that are emotional, we need to consider it over a while before we just make an automatic decision to say, you're not for me. But we get clear over time to say, wow, that doesn't feel like it's really additive to my life, my well-being. What's the effect that I have after? This is something that I've had to face within my own life, that there's some times where because I'm so open and just so willing to help or assist or be with anyone, it sometimes is not for my own good, because I don't have enough discernment, where I don't have this ability to just say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And I find that I have this impact, especially in my own personal world, where I don't necessarily hold boundaries or enough to say that this is my time. This is not your time. So there's times like that to say, well, there's discerning. And I find that within my own framework, it's not that easy to just say, yeah, you're not for me. I'm not going to have this conversation right now.
No, it makes you uncomfortable, and it makes other people around you uncomfortable.
Now, it has been said in the spiritual and cleanup world that we must get uncomfortable to move outside of our comfort zone. We get uncomfortable outside that comfort zone.
Yeah, in human design, where I'm a manifester, that is just who I am, like informing people, and it does make them uncomfortable. And the things that I share, I just share with no like big meaning behind it, that when they have it, they put behind it. Do you know what I mean? And so
right.
To me, it's just talking to you just like anybody else would be talking to me, yet they have emotional reactions around what I say. It's interesting how it happened. We're saying interesting a lot as another word, because I don't know what other way to explain it. I'm just talking, but there's always this big emotional reaction to what I say.
Well, so within the framework of human design, when we start to understand our own particular form and function and the mechanics behind that, and then if we have an idea of the other person's mechanics, we can start to, it's not necessarily a troubleshooting of it. It's helps. An awareness where we say there's a person's form, and then there's everything that is not their form is their not self. So it's possible that people have a strong emotional reaction, could be an amplification of your emotional energy because you are emotional and you get passionate about various aspects, things that you're talking about, depending what it is. You carry this energy of passion within your framework. And then they take that in and amplify it. That could be getting kicked back. And if you understand that, then you say, well, okay, they're just kicking back mine if they're not emotional. Or if they're emotional, then they have their own emotionality about them and they're just doing their nature. And it really does help to understand this, just like in the framework of understanding words and the mechanics of words, like we were talking about, frequency and vibration are mechanics. They're energy mechanics. It just is. It's always there and doing what it does. Whether or not we're tuned in and moving with it and utilizing it for our own benefit, our own good, wonderful, joyous ride or struggle ride, whichever way it is, or all of it, because that's the way we do like it dramatic.
Some of us do. I like observing dramatic.
That's the benefit of being observant.
It's entertaining.
It definitely can be entertaining, which I believe is the idea of this human ride, is to find it entertaining.
Yeah, I would hope so. We've got to laugh at some part during this experience, right? I mean, a lot of it is not funny, but at some point you just have to crack and laugh it out.
Oh, it's true, depending on where we're looking, as far as some of it just is not. You're right. Not funny.
No, not funny at all. I had read through, so I don't know if I read or listened to, but I was going down my rabbit hole with this conversation that would be taking place. And I love how my computer screen is doing its thing again. I heard this and I thought, wow, talk about a good description of etymology. So he was saying people is a powerful word and person is a statutory man-made word. And you can say that people are from God, people are divine, people are sovereign. But when you say persons, you think of a corporation is a person, an LLC is a person, a government is a person, the IRS is a person, the Fed is a person, and so on. Just the difference between people and persons and their meaning and just the shift in that vibration right there, intellectually and energetically. I just thought, wow, good description. I caught on to that one really nicely when I was trying to figure out where exactly I could come from in this conversation from my point of view, because that right there was just a perfect analogy for me, like people and persons. They took away the vibration when they changed it to persons from people.
They also created separation. So
Definitely.
if you can take that per, which is an individual, an individualized, that I don't know exactly, but I can tell that that's a frequency, and per is like each, and then the sun would be probably like son. I don't know that it's necessarily gender, but I think about a son, son of a family member, that type of thing. So per son, so per individual, and then wow, that is really fascinating. That would be an interesting one to look up, to say where the threads that go back. Mm-hmm. But we don't even have to do that when you just feel it.
Right. Lean into the vibration. That's what I'm all about. The history is neat, right? I mean, I love history. Let's learn all about the history, but the history of words, I'm like, that doesn't really do much for me. I appreciate words and the value that they are and the way that they can shape our realities, right? Because again, vibration, what you put out, you receive. It's all about creating different realities. And that's not just in actions, it's definitely in words as well.
Yes, definitely. So one thing that I want to bring up as far as etymology is, as the people that study the history of words, the way that they can really truly study the history of words is through where they were written and exactly how they were, so where they were written so that they can be tracked, what books, and where these things were documented. So it doesn't go back forever. It goes back through text and documented things. So when we take that and we bring it into frequency and vibration, we can bring in the concept that said, if a particular word was included in a text, what's all the rest of that text about? What's the frequency and the vibration of a particular book, bodies of works that was done? And that would be one individual word would also be encompassed by the words around it contextually. as well, because that's frequency that way. So that is another thing to consider is we take individual parts and it's just analysis. It's separation, separation, separation. When we put it back into a bigger picture, it's like, what's the holding of that word or that particular thing through history? Mm-hmm. Where's that word carried? Now, there's a lot of words that don't necessarily, well, most of our generalized words do come from somewhere. They have a particular use. That's another thing that's shifted much. Listen to that language there. That's shifted that I've started to notice. There's this drift. Now, maybe it's always been there, but a drift away from grammar. So we take something that was maybe historically singular that can be plural now. Different aspects of the language that get co-opted, if we want to say it. That may be hard, but it's definitely true, where there's the shift that's in language. I've been reading books that go not even really that far back, a few decades back. And you don't even have to go back very far back, go 100 years back. And the books and the language just in books written 100 years ago is definitely different than in books that are written much more currently. The modern English feels it's a bit more diluted, if you want to put it that way. But it is what it is. It's the world we live in. It's these are different aspects that I came to consider when I was thinking about this conversation, like you were saying, that there's different things to notice.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you ever think about words just in general, they have a life of their own. Like the emphasis and the accent or the language or whatever variance there is, they're created, they change, they go away, some come back, and then they mean something else entirely different. I mean, just look at the word gay. It used to mean happy.
Yes.
And now if you say it, you're offending someone.
Right.
Or a cigarette. It used to be called something else. And so it's just wild to me that the things that mean something in one way in one time are something completely different in another experience.
And it does feel... I'm actually not sure that we get to choose. Mm-hmm. We don't really get to choose it. How would I want to say that? We are in this ocean, neutrino ocean, in this vast society that has its own currents. Mm-hmm. And the currents actually go way back in so many ways. There is social programming or social programs or ideologies that get woven into the educational fabric that are a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And whatever gets educated within the college framework. This is one thing I noticed as I was going through college or different education. Who chooses the books that you're going to study from? Why is it this particular book? Maybe an author negotiated with the college to have their book put on the curriculum. And there's all these different things that are on the underlying.
Not to mention the dark end of it, just the conditioning aspect of it, of what they want us to believe.
In many ways, that's actually a controlling factor, that if you get your ideology on a curriculum somewhere, you have it spread. It gets into the collective. Mm-hmm. And then the collective spreads it. So, and most of the time, I know even in my own experience of going through college courses, I didn't completely read everything. Because there's a lot to go through, and it isn't necessarily of the utmost interest to me to read like a whole body of work by a particular theorist. I was in sociology, so oh my goodness, it was not easy to slog through social theory books. And so I read what I need to get through that course, but that still, that energy is out there. So when we're talking about that, yeah, that there are particular bodies of work, books, literary works that get spread and stay alive a lot longer than others.
Mm-hmm.
And that selection process, who knows exactly all the dynamics that go in the selection process? Who gets to choose what becomes the mainstreamed knowledge base?
And where did all of the dictionaries go?
Well, they got.
We all used to have one in our home, right?
I still have a couple.
So how accurate are they these days? You know, that's so. It's so funny to think about.
It is. So where do people go for their dictionaries now? Well,
Google.
Which puts a sort of monopoly on the knowledge as it's put, unless you were to fact check or go back to what was written before and compare it to what you look at now. Is that just a normal drift that we're talking about? It's mutative processes that go along with evolution.
Bear with me. What about the Mandela effect with words?
Oh,
well, because there are so many things that physically, visually changed for us. We know we saw it a certain way. There's even proof. A lot of people have the proof, but yet it never happened. And you say a word one day and someone's like, what does that mean? And it's a common word. And you're like, you know, this. And they're like, what?
Now, I have to say that Mandela effect.
I'm curious how it has played a factor on words.
Oh, it has. Yes. But what do you do if we shift timelines? What do you do? Well,
what timeline are we on? What timeline are you on? Am I on your timeline?
We definitely get it. That I don't have any specific answers for. I
was just thinking as you were talking about it. Interesting. If you guys are hanging out with us in chat, either on live.kgradb.com, KGRA Digital Broadcasting's Facebook, X, Rumble, Twitch, or on Soul Wanderings YouTube page, I'm really curious what everyone thinks about this topic. It's just an interesting one and not one that we have ever talked about before. And do you think the Mandela effect has an effect on words and the way that we communicate?
Well, Mandela effect is one of those.
That's a whole other topic. Maybe we can add that to the list.
That I definitely have to do.
It's a fun one. I see so many videos of people sharing like Fruit of the Loom, right? They're sharing their t-shirts with the logo with the cornucopia and other people don't have it. And they're telling us we're crazy. But we have proof.
That's, bringing back in what you had said earlier about corporations.
I know I went off topic a little.
No, I don't think it did. When you were talking about energetically the corporations and the feds and those things being person and driving there's just a change. They just shift so often. To me, I get surprised from time to time how often products are changed. Why there seems to be a lack of desire for consistency over time. Like things need to be refreshed and refreshed and refreshed and refreshed.
That's with all things in life. I was driving, so I grew up in Salt Lake and I drove to Salt Lake a lot this weekend, back and forth, back and forth. And I saw all of these shifts that had taken place since I grew up there. And I like history was gone. Like where I used to work, where I used to hang out, where they was just gone. Everything's been replaced. It's like it never even existed. And it was sad to me because, I mean, those were some great memories and they're just as if they didn't ever happen. I find that like similar. I feel like that's similar.
Well, I think that might be an aspect or a clue into some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And another reason why having a body of knowledge such as etymology that can actually show threads, historical threads that has a consistency, feels good in some ways that
Mm-hmm.
there is consistency through various aspects.
Mm-hmm.
In America, I mean, I've really only been exposed to America because I'm American. It just seems that we have such a slow or a very short attention span. And every generation, every 10 years or so, then the next person doesn't know what we know. And there is not this long-standing historical perspective
Mm-hmm.
unless you work at having that be there and be
Right.
available. It's a conscious act to do those things.
I do think America does stand out differently in that regards, just from my experience when I have traveled. There are so many places that are just like locked in time, right? They still eat the same food, say the same things, live in the same places. It's so deeply enriched with culture and history. Those things don't change. And talk about not being in a hurry to go everywhere. They don't have the hustle and bustle and rush around. Most countries don't. Things are a lot more leisurely.
That would be kind of nice.
Kind of. Sign me up. I don't think the Americans have it right in a lot of ways if we're going to go down that path. There's always a need to evolve. I understand that. And that's good and necessary. And I get why things do change. But language, right? Why does it go away and sometimes come back, or sometimes just shift? One word means something completely different. That's what it boggles my mind. And we just roll with it. We're just like, oh, okay, that's that now.
And it could be the fact that as the United States set up as it is, we are like a bunch of different countries, but we're not. We're all one.
Right.
And so we spread across, right, definitely this melting pot. And because there's all these different cultures, our language tends to take that on as well. There's this other thing I've seen a few more, this conglomeration of a lot of different languages. So we're bringing in words that were with Germanic or words that are Indo-European or all these different cultures, Latin, Greek, Hindu, or that's not the language but from India or from from over there in Iran or Iraq, that area over there. Those languages have stayed relatively steady, but then they come into ours and they blend into our language and we adopt them because in many ways we adopt cultures like that.
Right.
You're correct. So we roll with it because in a way that's the way our country is, is to absorb and to take on. Facts.
It's a nice way to look at it. It's a good perspective. I agree with that. What is your favorite word? Do you have one?
My favorite word. Well, for this particular one, I think I came up with no, like to know. So this is one of the contemplations that I came away from my research and my study for this particular thing is to know. So in that it's to know is to have actual, let's see, to experience or live through. So as we experience or live through, we will come to know.
Beautiful.
So if we drop the K in know, it's now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my favorites, is to gain the experience. And with that, you have something that is tangible, that belongs to you as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you can always bring to the now.
Yeah, I like that. Good answer.
Thanks. What
Good
about
answer.
you?
I'm always going to say love because
Oh.
it's universal. It never changes. It always is. And it's the highest vibration and frequency.
Ah, that's good. That's one I'm going to have to go back and look up, the etymology of love.
Oh, please do. And report back to me. What is your favorite word, Wanderers? Type it in the chat. I'd love to hear about it. It's such a fun topic. I learned things that I didn't know before this week. So great job on picking the topic for us. I love learning new things. And it's neat when you pick something so human. Because then I'm like, oh, a challenge. I like it. So in conclusion, I think the best thing that we could say is that words have their own life, right? They have their own vibration, they have their own frequency, and they do create our reality, good, bad, or indifferent, regardless of the history, regardless of the definition. Everything is energy. And so be very mindful in the words that you choose for your vocabulary. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, I do. From that, as you have a greater awareness, then you become more and more your unique expression in the world. And has a profound effect. You being uniquely you, being conscious, being choosy with the words, being co-creative with your own world around you, stepping up and taking a level of responsibility for the world that you're literally creating with your words and adjusting of that through the words, then you are an improvement to the world.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you for leaving us with that deliciousness. And thank you, Wanderers, for being here with us tonight. It's been a fun conversation. If you ever want to chime in, that's what the chat room's for. If you want to pick a topic for us, connect at soulwanderings.com. And you can also find all of our social media links and support the station by going to soulwanderings.com or kgradb.com. Until next week, we'll see you all later. Good night.
Have a good one.